ashes and tell you that he saw golden corn, at old rags and say, from cast-off clothes come bitter beer and early cauliflowers. In fact, he might go through the whole list and prove to you that so far from it all being rubbish, none of it is rubbish when it gets into its right place, and that every single item has a more or less wonderful future before it. For where man's ingenuity fails, nature comes to the rescue, and she is intolerant of all waste. Then again, if archaeologically inclined, he might look at the dust and think of the ancient dust heaps discovered or disinterred in various parts of the world, which tell in such plain language of the habits and manner of life of races long since passed away from the earth, and he might speculate upon the possibility of one of these modern dust heaps being buried and preserved to become an interesting historical record, telling future generations what the ancient Englishman lived upon, what fruits and vegetables he cultivated and what he imported, what fabrics he wore, what perfection he had attained in the arts of pottery and of glass and paper-making, what an extensive trade he must have had with all parts of the world, and many other things besides, too numerous to mention. To the dustman, everything which finds its way into his cart, whether it be ashes, old shoes, or an occasional silver spoon, all comes under the head of dust. But leaving these for the present, we will limit our inquiries to the fine powdery matter commonly called dust, which is by no means the insignificant, unimportant trifle it at first sight appears. For dust has caused lawsuits, dust has caused shipwrecks, and dust has caused, and still causes, death. More than this, without dust we should probably have no fogs, no clouds, and no rain. There would be no light, no colour in the ocean, and finally, without dust, the sun's rays would be invisible to us. What, then, is this dust, and where does it come from? Inside our houses it consists chiefly of the minute particles rubbed off carpets, furniture, and the like by the ordinary wear and tear of daily life. Carpets and clothes are constantly being worn threadbare by perpetual rubbing, and every time we cut the leaves of a book, wind wool, use a sewing machine, scratch the legs of table or chair, every time, in fact, that we walk across the room, we help to make the dust which the housemaid sweeps up in the morning. But it is not only the things around us which are being thus continually rubbed and worn. Something of the same sort happens to ourselves. We are perpetually changing our skins, not indeed as the lizard does, but piecemeal. And as the little loose particles are rubbed off, they too help to make the dust which collects in our houses and needs to be constantly removed if our bodies are to be kept in a healthy state. For the greater part of this dust is organic. It has, at one time or other, formed part of some organized living thing, animal or vegetable, and as such it will burn quickly if we set fire to it, or slowly if we spread it upon the fields and leave it, as we say, to decay. It cannot therefore be wholesome to have it about us, as though the exact nature of the germs which spread scarlet fever and other diseases may not be determined, one thing is certain, namely that they flourish most in the neighbourhood of dirt and decaying matter of all kinds. The lighter part of this dust floats in the air, as we see whenever a sunbeam shines into the room and reveals it to us. The heavier settles on the floor and furniture, where, in towns at least, it is so blackened by dust of another kind, the smoke and soot arising from the imperfect combustion of fuel, that it is not easy to tell what its original colours were. Still, the examination of any bit of flue which has collected behind some piece of furniture too heavy to be constantly moved will show us that it consists in the main of fine hairs and particles of wool, worsted, cotton, etc., which have been worn off by the housemaid's broom and our own movements, and felted together by pressure, some being large enough to show their origin plainly, while others are mere dust, scarcely distinguishable as hairs at all by the naked eye. But besides the dust made inside the house, some of that made outside also finds its way in, and in dry...